President Granger says national recount will satisfy questions raised by observers and citizens, and the Department of Public Service institutes rotational system for workers in light of COVID-19. It's Monday, March 16. We have lots to tell you today. Thanks for joining us. His Excellency President David Granger says the national recount of votes cast in the March 2, 2020 general and regional elections will satisfy questions raised by both local and international observers and Guyanese as well. Here's our first report.
The head of state addressed the nation on Sunday on the political impasse the country experienced following the elections. In that statement, he detailed the events following the March 2 polls, which have led to him seeking the assistance of the CARICOM for a total recount of ballots. The head of state said since March 4, the political opposition has been doing everything to obstruct the work of GCOM. That obstruction included approaches to the Supreme Court on 3 separate occasions, the invasion of the office of the returning officer for District 4, and statements by observer missions which he said created uncertainty in the minds of the citizenry.
I agreed that a total national recount could be done to satisfy the questions raised by observers and the citizenry. I had a telecommunications conference with Prime Minister Mia Mottley today, 15th of March 2020. I proposed that the CARICOM initiative should operate within the legal framework of the Constitution of Guyana and respect the role of the Elections Commission and the rulings of the Supreme Court. It will not act independently.
The recounting process, which commenced on Monday, will be overseen by an independent 5-member high-level team fielded by CARICOM. President Granger said the government looks forward to the total national recount being completed as soon as possible.
I am committed to the rule of law and the Constitution. I respect the integrity and autonomous nature of the Elections Commission. I will abide by the declarations of the Elections Commission as I have abided by the rulings of the court.
In that vein, he urged all Guyanese to be patient as the country complies with the ruling of the court and the decisions of the Commission. For InfoHub, Anara Khan.
Under the supervision of the Caribbean community, the Guyana Elections Commission will recount ballots from the March 2, 2020 polls.
The recounting process will be held at the Arthur Chung Conference Center and will be overseen by a 5-member high-level team from CARICOM. GCOM Commissioner Vincent Alexander told the media operatives on Sunday that the Elections Commission and the CARICOM team had worked out the modus operandi.
We were able to determine the terms of reference for the team from CARICOM conclusively. We were able to determine that work should start tomorrow. It should be preceded by a site visit, so the logistical arrangements could be put in place, and once that's done, then the work should commence.
Alexander said the CARICOM team suggested that the recount begins with the region that has the largest voting population and to the region with the smallest.
Their argument was it's the largest region, and therefore when they're fresh, they should be largest first. And the consequence of that logic, we're not going to necessarily follow the sequence of the regions. What we're going to follow is from the largest, the next largest, till we get to the smallest.
He explained that the process will involve the counting of 5 boxes simultaneously.
There is the possibility that we will be conducting simultaneously 5 counts. In other words, 5 ballot boxes at the same time, because you have 5 persons who have come in, and each will be supervising 1 ballot box at a time. In each of those instances, the parties will be able to have a rep for each box. CARICOM people will have somebody for each box. GCOM will have people for each box. So the processes will be equal across the boxes.
Chair of CARICOM and Prime Minister of Barbados, Honorable Mia Motley, had on Saturday, March 14, accepted an invitation by President David Granger for the body to overlook the recounting of ballots in all regions. President Granger believes that the recounting process will bring an end to questions raised by both local and international observers and Guyanese on a whole about the legitimacy of the elections. For InfoHub, Anara Khan.
In his weekly column, My Turn, Prime Minister Moses Nagamootoo states that it is through the ballots that Guyana's democracy will be maintained.
The Prime Minister stated, quote, Recounts could have unsettling outcomes by which Democrats have to live. They must agree a priori to accept the results, as this would help to open the door to restore trust amongst political players and diffuse any possibility for outsiders to cash in on our seeming division. End of quote. He noted that while it is laudable that both President David Granger and the leader of the opposition have agreed to the recount, the Guyana Elections Commission remains the constitutional body responsible for the conduct of elections and has to implement the recount process. According to him, quote, it must be clearly understood by those who are threatening sanctions and those who are inviting foreign intervention that constitutionally, GCOM is in charge of the conduct of elections from registration of electors to declaration of the final results. The Prime Minister deemed it a great strategic move to involve CARICOM, highlighting a similar intervention from the regional body in 1997. Prime Minister Nagamutu reiterated that recounting of the ballots would bury all doubts and restore credibility to the country's electoral process. For InfoHub, Anara Khan.
In a release issued today, the Guyana Elections Commission stated that it has completed all of the preparatory arrangements for the commencement of the national vote. The recount exercise will be conducted at the Arthur Chong Conference Center, and a site visit was done this morning by GCOM, the CARICOM delegation, to supervise the recount, the Guyana Police Force, and representatives from the Tourism Ministry. However, the Commission stated that it is awaiting a signed agreement between His Excellency President David Granger and the opposition leader Bar Jagdeo in order for the process to be operationalized. The Guyana Elections Commission is assuring that the process will be conducted to the satisfaction of all stakeholders so that the electoral process can be concluded within the shortest possible time. Since Friday last, when a total of 4 cases of coronavirus were reported locally, the Ministry of Public Health has stepped up surveillance and sensitization on the disease and how it is being controlled.
In Guyana, the administrative regions have been put on guard to detect and contain any possible case of coronavirus. Regional Health Officer Region 4 Dr. Quincy Jones explains that this has put the country at an advantage.
Thank you very much. With the first emergence of the coronavirus, the Ministry of Public Health had signaled to the regions that entered into a state of preparedness. So since last year, December, the Region 4 had prepared a regional preparedness and prevention strategy, which was reviewed by the Ministry of Public Health, which has always been in place. So at our health centers, we have trained our staff, and we have continually to train our staff as new information comes out on how to best prevent and identify suspected cases and the necessary referral pathway to minimize the spread in the event we found somebody who's positive.
The first case was a 52-year-old woman who recently traveled from the United States of America. She fell ill and subsequently died, after which she was tested for COVID-19. 3 other cases tested positive for COVID-19, and these include the husband of the deceased and 2 other family members. There has been intensified awareness on the need to practice the necessary precautionary measures. Also, the Health Emergency Operations Center is mobilized with the technical support to deal with eventualities. Meanwhile, President David Granger over the weekend reiterated his call for the populace to remain calm.
We must be reminded of the very difficult public health environment occasioned by the coronavirus disease 2019, known as COVID-19. I appeal to the public to remain calm and to implement all the advisories relating to personal hygiene, social distancing, and overall infection prevention and control.
There is a public appeal to persons who have been in contact with the deceased and her family members to self-quarantine, and if they display signs of the COVID-19, to contact the hotline on 227-4986 or 624-3067. For InfoHub, Delicia Haynes.
When the news returns, Department of Citizenship urges public to follow public health guidelines when visiting its offices. The details of these stories and more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. As the government seeks to control the recent outbreak of COVID-19, the Department of Citizenship is requesting that persons visiting its offices comply with guidelines set out by the Ministry of Public Health to prevent and control the disease.
According to our release, The department stated that in order to minimize the risks involved with crowds, persons will be attended to in smaller groups and will be permitted entry on this basis. Members of the public are advised that masks are only required if they are caring for a person suspected of being infected with COVID-19 or if they are coughing or sneezing. The department states that persons who do not display any symptoms of COVID-19 and who are not caring for anyone suspected to have contracted COVID-19 need not wear masks to access services at the DOC or the General Registrar's office. The Department of Citizenship noted that these precautions are especially necessary as a significant number of persons who utilize its services daily are foreign nationals, many of whom would have engaged in recent overseas travel and may have been exposed to the COVID-19. This will remain in effect until the status of the newly spread disease in Guyana is renewed. For InfoHub, Anara Khan.
The following is an important message from the Ministry of Public Health. When should you use a face mask? A medical mask is not required for members of the public who do not have respiratory illness symptoms. Wear a mask if you are coughing or sneezing constantly. For healthy people, wear a mask only if you are caring for a person suspected to have COVID-19. Masks are only effective when used in combination with frequent hand cleaning with alcohol-based hand rubs, sanitizers, or washing with soap and water. If you wear a mask, dispose of it properly. The Ministry of Public Health has a hotline to provide information on the coronavirus. Members of the public can call 227-4986 or 624-3067. The University of Guyana has closed all of its campuses to students and teaching faculty until March 30, 2020. During this period, students and staff are advised to carry on their educational activities as advised earlier as far as possible using electronic means. The university is also reminding students and staff to follow all the necessary health precautions as advised by the Ministry of Public Health. Meanwhile, the Education Ministry has closed all schools for 2 weeks beginning today, March 16. During this period, the ministry will conduct a sanitation exercise of all schools and the ministry's buildings to ensure that children, teachers, and staff can return to a safe and healthy learning and working environment. The ministry is also notifying the public that given the current situation, the scheduled dates for the National Grade 6 Assessment 2020, April 9 and 8, are no longer valid. The ministry will provide ample notice of the new dates, and parents are encouraged to continue working with their children in preparation for this assessment. They are also advised to visit the ministry's website to access the NGSA practice test papers. With 4 confirmed cases of the novel coronavirus, the Department of Public Service has introduced a shift system for public servants. The rotational arrangement will be in effect from March 16 to 27.
The Department of Public Service's new rotational system serves as a part of the efforts to contain the spread of the novel coronavirus. While supervisory staff are expected to be present every day, other staff will work on alternate days to prevent a clustered work environment. Public servants who are experiencing flu-like symptoms have been advised to contact the emergency hotline at 227-4986 or 624-3067. Another measure to contain the coronavirus falls under the Public Service Rule H45, which requires a medical certificate after being sick for 3 consecutive days, and public servants who have been quarantined for 14 days must be cleared by a medical practitioner prior to assuming duty. The Department of Public Service has also advised each ministry, department, and region to sterilize their working environment and to follow all guidelines set out by the Ministry of Public Health. For InfoHub, Gavin Lewis.
That's all for today. Connect with us on our social media platforms, including WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Much more news is on our website at dpi.gov.gy. Your bridge and weather reports are up next. Goodbye for now.